we are on to episode 15 of season 2. This one is called Fresh Bones. So, Brian, is this a big X-Files episode?
I don't think so. I don't think it's one that people point out as a poor one or one of the worst ones, but I don't think it's on anybody's top 10 lists or anything, so...
Middle of the road?
Maybe slightly above middle of the road, but nothing... I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so we start the episode with a woman waking to the sound of a baby crying. I say baby, it's a... Basically her husband comes out of the bathroom, he's been kind of choking up, she hears him, she's concerned, and he comes out and he's like, "Can't you hear the baby's crying?" So I'm expecting like a,
Baby.
A baby, yeah. So when we see what I can only assume is a 3 or 4 year old child sat at the table having some cereal, he's very agitated, the husband. He's sat there, he's kind of pouring his cereal out, and she's saying, "Look, I think you need to go and see someone." He's having none of it, he's pushing her away. And then he sees maggots where his cereal should be, and it kind of makes him freak out a bit. He gets in his car, drives along the road, and then he sees his reflection in the car mirror, and he looks like a kind of zombie. He looks like a zombie face.
Yeah.
And then from there, he crashes into a tree. And as we pan around the back of the tree, we see that it's marked with a white symbol.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because I'm a family person or that, but the opening scene really was kind of disturbing. The fact that his kid was crying, his wife was upset, and he was just antagonising every situation. It made me kind of like worry for the family, almost, And then he sees the maggots, he gets in the car, and then you get the really fantastic image of his kind of zombified face, which looked a bit like the characters out of They Live.
Yeah, it did a bit.
And then you like you say, the sign, and you're like, well, you told me last episode it was voodoo, so I kind of knew what that was, and there we have it. Opens.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's one that grabbed me straight away. I was curious about the flashes of images, but I kind of was put in the back foot because of the disturbing family scenes at the start.
Yeah, the kid was, I mean, despite the fact that it wasn't a baby, it was very convincing, it must be said. When he's at the table and he starts crying, it feels like somebody pinched him, maybe, because he doesn't seem to be faking it. But yeah, the guy who plays this soldier, he would go on to take the lead in another Chris Carter TV show, Harsh Realm, which unfortunately only lasted about 13 episodes, I think it was, something like that, 11 episodes, something. But yeah, he's a military man in that as well, so...
Typecast?
Yeah. Okay, so Mulder tells Scully that the private, the officer, is the second suicide from a particular military base in as many weeks. The base is actually a holding for refugees from Haiti, and Mrs. McAlpin, the wife of this guy, is the one who requested the FBI.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's nice to have them just discussing the case without any supernatural chit chat or anything like that just now, and they get to the the crime scene, I would say, although it's just where the tree is with the white marks. And you kind of can see that glimmer in Mulder's eye as his spooky sense is tingling.
Yeah. Sorry. Mulder's excited by that little symbol, but they go to see Mrs. McAlpin, who says her husband changed once he started working at the base. Another officer apparently told her about the symbol being the same as the one on the stool of a Puerto Rican boy who hung himself at the base. It was also on a shell that her baby, dug up in his sandpit. So clearly someone is trying to scare them with it, or someone is actually doing some sort of voodoo or some sort of ritual. But either way, this sign has been found not only at her son's death, but at this boy who hanged himself as well.
And it's I got to say, I wasn't too enamoured with the actress's acting in this one. I don't know, just something about it just wasn't that believable. It just seemed a bit hammy.
Right. Okay.
Is that just me?
It didn't. I didn't get the kind of reaction you got, but I didn't. You know, she wasn't the girl from the last episode who blew us away. You know. So Mulder and Scully go to the base. A man there accosts Scully, and he's run off by a kid who sells them some protection. Not that kind of protection, but he basically wangles his way into selling Mulder this what looks like a rag with something stuck to it. He says it's protection from like voodoo and things like that, because all the refugees that are here are all Haitian, so clearly they must be from the voodoo capital of the world.
Yeah.
But there you go.
It's a nice little scene, and you get to see Mulder's soft side, because he does kind of just want to support the kid a little bit, give him a little bit of money, buy something. Not too much, not $10. No, I mean he's willing to give him $5 for it. Scully's worth that.
They talk to Colonel Wharton,
which is Daniel Benzali.
Yeah, so
from Murder One.
Murder One. I know him from Murder One.
Murder
series
1600.
I could never get into Murder One, to be honest.
Oh, that's awesome.
I tried it. I think I may have been too young. I don't know. I know they had. It was one case, wasn't it, that went across the whole season?
For the first season, yeah.
Yeah. Not for the second.
No, I think there was 3 cases in the second.
Right. Okay.
And it was only 2 seasons they had.
Yeah. I was never impressed with it at the time, but I think back then I was such an X-Files junkie that I don't know. I guess there was only one series for me at that time, but they talk to Colonel Wharton, who says his men are hated by the refugees, and they are doing a job they were not really trained to do. Mm-hmm. He tells them that Pierre Beauvais was responsible for the riot that led to the kid's death, and Mulder requests to speak to Beauvais while Scully asks to examine McAlpin's body. Mm. So what do you think about this guy right off the bat?
For a bald man, he has a particularly hairy chest.
Not where I was going, but hey ho.
But see, I was a bit in the back foot because I knew him from other things. I knew he was he had a staunchly good guy in Murder One, so I thought maybe he's telling the truth. You know, whereas if I hadn't seen him in anything else, I may have jumped to the fact that he's the one. But initially, I was like, okay, it might not be him. It could be this Beauvais character. I need to get and see that. It seems pretty convincing.
Yeah, I like him as an actor. You know, I think he's all right. I think he's good for this part here. McAlpin's body is now that of a dead jackal. Yeah, Scully goes with this other soldier. They pull his body out, and there's now a dog in its place. Mm-hmm. Kind of takes me back to The Omen.
Yeah,
finding the Omen in the graveyard, but pretty freaky image.
Really terrifically haunting image. It's kind of like mummified almost as well. It's not the freshest corpse. It's just weird.
Yeah. So Beauvais tells Mulder the symbol is the l'occommoir, a mirror between two worlds that shows you your true self. To which I'm like, huh? What?
I do like Beauvais. When he's in the cell, he's always in shadows. You never see the whole of his face, or he's dominating the camera. He's always like the camera's kind of looking up to him in bits, and it frames him as the bad guy, because all these techniques we're used to seeing in other things, in the shadows or dominating the camera, like I said. So I did kind of think that he was the bad guy.
I've literally just poured a cup of water all over my microphone. I have no idea if this is going to affect the sound or what. Yeah, so Beauvais, he says this thing's the mirror between the two worlds. Maybe they didn't like what they saw. So this symbol, if my understanding of what he's saying is right, he's saying that this symbol has opened up some kind of bridge or mirror between our world and the spirit world, and whatever is reflected back has done some damage to these guys, presumably because they deserved it, is what he's saying. So Mulder tells him that Wharton said he started the riots. Wharton said that Beauvais started the riot. Beauvais tells Mulder that Wharton will not let them return home, which is all he's asking.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a refugee story.
Yes.
Really. Scully comes to tell Mulder about the dog, but Beauvais tells him first. Scully asks how he knew, but he just tells them they've been warned. So, basically.
Yeah. It's. I just feel like Beauvais talks in kind of riddles as well.
Yeah.
Again, that kind of adds to the mystique. And still at this point, I'm like, he's not. He could be up to something.
Yeah. He's talking in riddles, but he still knows things that he shouldn't know. So clearly he's not just making things up as he goes along. He's clearly at the heart of whatever's going on. You do get the sense that he is responsible for these symbols. It's just that, I mean, he's basically told us his motive. Look, let my people go. This is this is Moses. He's saying, let my people go, or the 10 plagues are going to be erupted on your sorry asses. Mulder and Scully are driving, and Scully tells Mulder that she doesn't believe in voodoo, that its power lies in intimidation.
Yeah.
To which they then nearly hit someone with the car. And it turns out to be none other than the dog himself, Private McAlpine. There's a turn up in the books. Back from the dead.
Zombies walk among us. I just, to be honest, at first I didn't realise it was him.
Right.
Because we had met a couple of privates.
Yeah,
so it took me a wee second until it showed you his face. I was like, oh, all right. I don't know if I was just slow in this one. And I was just like, cool. But again, like a lot of things in this episode, I'm like, that's cool. Okay.
Moving on.
I'm not really curious about the answers.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's not so much that anything in this episode is badly directed, or even badly written in many respects. But it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I think I feel that way with anything to do with voodoo. Anyway, to be honest, it's not really my subject.
Just there's a deep air of just being uninterested in the answers, which is probably not a good thing when the episode is relying on these reveals. So, I mean, you should be like, holy crap, this guy's back from the dead. How? You're just like, all right, he's cool.
So there he is. That's him. There he is.
Hey, guy.
Hey. Go back to antagonising your family now. So Scully says that the coroner, that's the thing, isn't it? We've got no kind of identification with this guy other than the fact that he was a bit of a douche with his family. So it's not like we even care about him all that much.
No.
So,
but this explanation's awesome.
Yes. Scully says the coroner obviously made a gross error. Really? You think? McAlpin's blood tests say he had the poison of a Japanese pufferfish in him. And for anyone who's seen the film...
Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Completely we've talked about it before on this show. Buried Alive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you've seen the film Buried Alive, you'll know exactly what she's talking about, because it's that same pufferfish where if you use the right amount of poison, you kill someone. If you use the wrong or the right amount of poison, depending on what your goal is, your ultimate goal, you will make someone appear dead until they are not.
No.
Okay.
Your English good.
Me English good, you English gooder. Okay, Mulder suggests zombies. I like how Scully's gone to some lengths of detecting this explanation that she's come up with. Mulder's just like, but Scully, zombies.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure if he's just at it here. He's just...
Yeah. But he does say that tetrodotoxin, which is the drug, the chemical that was found in the bloods of this private, was also found in the powders used by voodoo doctors in zombification rituals. The poison in the right dosage can be used to make someone look clinically dead. Mulder wonders about the other soldier who supposedly killed himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on to the next one. Again, you're just like, it's very.
They're telling us some stuff.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
words are coming out of their mouth.
That definitely fits in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, is it not Scully who comes up with the pufferfish thing?
Yeah.
And then Mulder comes up with this zombification chemical that. They're kind of on the same page there. It's just Mulder's slanting it a bit. Mulder so desperately wants it to be zombies that he's saying, I get your explanation, Scully, and it's sound, but zombies.
It's weird. They're arguing about the same thing. She's saying, they're not really dead. It's just a drug that makes them look like that. Yeah. And then Mulder's like, no. What it is, it's a drug that makes them look as if they're dead, that they use the voodoo practices. Yeah. And you're like, it's the same thing.
Yeah, so that it causes a bit of confusion, because you're kind of, you're thinking, hang on, have they just said essentially the same thing? So you start thinking about it, because you're thinking, no, that can't be it. They must have been on a different page there. But no, they're kind of on a different page. It's just that Mulder wants to give it a name, and that name is zombies.
Yeah.
So Mulder and Scully go to the gravesite of Private Gutierrez, but his body has been snatched. There's some grave dude, some guy who just...
There's a Rottweiler first.
Yes, again, from The Omen.
Omen,
Yeah, a lot of Omen vibes in this one. The Rottweiler's just a nothing, really, because the guy basically comes over the hill and that's it. So the guy
this guy, Callum Keith Rennie.
Yes.
You know him? Yeah.
I know him big time. He's in a lot. Yeah. He's in the second X-Files film.
Is he? And he was Lucifer in Supernatural.
Yeah, he was in Battlestar Galactica as well.
Yeah, he's just one of these character actors that turns up everywhere. I like him.
Well, he's Canadian, so every show that's shot in Vancouver, he's one of the go-to guys. But he's a go-to guy because he's good. You know, he's good at what he does. So, but yeah, looking very young here, I must say. Very young. He looks a lot more rugged and ragged these days, but yeah, he quite fresh-faced. But he's playing this guy who basically it's his job to tend the graves. He's basically that guy you get out of Friday the 13th who... yeah.
Just a little bit younger.
Yeah, but, yeah, a lot younger. So this graveyard dude says that bodies are often sold to voodoo types for medicine and stuff. Then they see the kid, the one who sold Mulder the protection. They see him digging in the ground for frogs.
Just before that, we get the groundskeeper just be like, I can deal with them, and shows them a gun.
Yeah.
I'll just show these police officers a gun.
Pulls out his gun, yeah. Not the way to go.
No.
But yeah, Mulder's like, we'll take care of this, mate.
No.
Just hang back.
Don't worry about it. I mean, I think he'd be more interested if it was a wand he'd pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they go to get the young kid. Again, Mulder puts himself in the line and tackles him.
Pulling out all the stops here, yeah. It's alright, Scully, you can get the next one.
You can get the next kid.
Alright, so Chester, as he's calling himself, says he sells the frogs to Beauvais. And Scully says that frogs can secrete a toxin similar to that found in McAlpin's body. So this is another toxin, which is it's just really confusing matters. So we've got the pufferfish explanation. Then we get no. It's not the pufferfish explanation, Scully. It's something that voodoo doctors use in zombification rituals that's very much like the pufferfish toxin. Oh, right, okay. Now, no. It's frogs. We get a very similar effect from a toxin that comes from frogs. Quite frankly now, I feel like we're running out of toxins. Mulder points out that they've been followed. Yeah, they basically they go with this kid, with Chester. They get him dinner. It's when he told him about what he's doing with the frogs. And Mulder spots that they've been followed by someone. So... yeah. He goes and he pulls Private Dunham out of the car. Now this is a guy who was kind of hanging around when they were talking to Beauvais and when they were talking to Wharton. Kind of gave a few knowing looks and stuff. But yeah, he was best friends with was it Gutierrez or the other one with one of the other soldiers. Dunham tells them that Beauvais is behind everything. That he told Wharton that his men would die one by one until he let them go. But Wharton just got tougher and sanctioned beatings. When they ask him if he really believes Beauvais is doing magic, he tells them a story about the woman he was supposed to marry. Someone who basically had a curse put on them and ended up dying just before they got married in a rather horrific fashion, which is why he very much believes in voodoo, very much believes in the power of like black magic and all that kind of stuff. So yes, he does believe Beauvais is behind it, and that these symbols are part of some kind of voodoo curse.
Yeah.
So. What do you think of Basil exposition there?
I'm kind of with the story, and I think it's cool until he goes, that guy was me. And then I'm just like, oh, God.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It just sounds like nonsense. But I thought the wee story was kind of funny, but this guy is just another one that's just stand there and tell, don't show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the thing is he's telling them something without actually telling them a right lot of anything.
Yeah,
because the story about his wife really is quite inconsequential, all it's geared towards telling us is that he believes that Beauvais is capable, that Beauvais' magic, if you want to call it that, works. So we've already essentially been told that Beauvais is the one behind it. Beauvais himself isn't doing anything to suggest he isn't. He's saying, let my people go and it'll stop. You know?
Yeah.
You want this to stop? Let us go. So this guy comes up and he says, I believe Beauvais is behind it. He's really angry because the Wharton is hurting them. And he's...
One of the things I really do like about this episode is you have this group of people who only want to go home, want their freedom, and then you see how they're kind of subjugated by rumours and myths and hushed whispers of nonsense, and how the zeitgeist just buys into it and further puts these people down.
But I feel like that would be a good point to raise, and I feel like the episode would be strengthened if it didn't actually turn out to be true.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, excellent, do an episode about fear mongering, about how, we do cast racist kind of ideas about particular people groups upon them because we don't really understand them, because we don't know them. That's great. If you want to do that, do that. But the fact that this guy essentially is responsible, that he is doing this voodoo stuff, it kind of negates that. It goes against that in a way. They're basically saying that, all those fears, all the paranoia, all the kind of racist ideas they have about this culture, they were right to have them. So, yeah.
Could it be an episode about misappropriation of cultural beliefs?
Maybe.
I'm just stretching you.
Yeah. Creaking, I would say. Okay. So, really, the only thing we get, the only piece of information we get from this guy that is new information, is the fact that that Wharton has been abusing these guys. So we go around the houses to get that piece of information out. Like, he literally could have stepped out the car and said, look, I believe that Beauvais is behind this. I believe it's retaliation for the beatings that Wharton has sanctioned. I don't know how he's doing it, but I'm scared and I believe that he's doing it. Boom. 30 seconds, he's gone. But instead we get this scene that really...
My wife died and she had snakes in her belly, and that's not a euphemism.
Yeah. Bit much. But so they turn to look for Chester to get Chester, and they see him doing a runner. Basically, he's off because the soldier doesn't want anything to do with Chester. He says that he'll go with them, but not if Chester is there. And Chester does a runner, which makes this. When you get to the end, this episode is really muddled. It's a very muddled episode because when you see this, like when you get to the end, this scene kind of becomes a bit.
Why?
Well, presumably he's
so
the
how,
kid.
Chester, how can the guy see him?
Pardon?
How can the privates see him? Does everybody just see him, the kid?
That's what I mean. And if he does see him, why is he not saying, and that kid there hung himself 6 weeks ago or whenever it was, he should not be walking around. I shouldn't be walking around, It's like, he's not even questioning why he's walking around. So, yeah, it's all just a bit airy-fairy, kind of in the sky. There's nothing concrete. That's the thing. There's nothing like... It feels a little bit like... when we had Red Museum?
Yeah.
And we had that kind of explanation about what Red Museum was, and then they just brushed past it because they didn't really want to delve into it too deeply. It feels like that. It's like, hey, you know what? Voodoo. and then that's kind of it. Yeah. So Chester does a runner. Mulder goes after him, and he basically disappears. But they're on a dock, so there's really nowhere for him to disappear to. But he's been replaced by a cat.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a black cat there.
Yep.
So Mulder and Scully confront Colonel Wharton on his mistreatment of the detainees. Wharton says it's his men that are being mistreated. They leave him to his breakfast, and when he cuts into his steak, blood pours out.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of feel that he's the bad guy at this point, aren't you? There's no really two qualms about it.
Yeah, very much.
But again, it's...
I do think there's a commentary there to be made about how, you think of places like Guantanamo Bay and things like that. It's soldiers are put into a very difficult position that, quite frankly, they're not trained for. They become babysitters to people who don't want to be babysat. It's like, how do you deal with that? There's an obvious tension is going to rise. So I think that is something worth exploring. I just think there's probably better ways to do it.
Yeah, 100% right.
So Mulder and Scully go to the car. Someone has put thorns around the steering wheel, causing Scully to cut herself. More scare tactics, claims Scully. And when they drive off, there is a symbol printed on the floor underneath their car.
Okay. How the hell did that symbol get?
I was, it's the exact question that was in my head.
And how did they not see that round the wheel as well?
Yeah, when they pulled up, the symbol wasn't there, so somebody has had to get under and spray paint that on. It's not a particularly huge gap to do that. I would guess they would gas themselves in the face with spray paint by doing it. But whatever. Wharton has one of his men beat Beauvais in order to get his secret. So this is where we start to learn what's going on. Basically, Beauvais is responsible for all the voodoo stuff that's going on. Wharton wants to know how he does it, and we find this out basically from this next scene, in which Mulder goes to his hotel, finds a 10 of diamonds on his door, and goes to his car, sits on the County Road 10. And X shows up. X comes to see him and tells him that in 24 hours no one will be allowed access to the base. The people there have no rights. Wharton's actions have been fully sanctioned, presumably by the government, and presumably to learn all that he can about Beauvais' voodoo powers. This to me feels weak, because I expect X to come in when, say, there's technology afoot, like some newfangled technology, maybe from an alien device, where there's something to do with alien DNA on hand, or
like a legacy episode, one in the bigger story.
Yeah, anything like that. Or if it's a smaller episode, then something that you would think the government would be interested in, not something that is a superstition that has been around for millennia. If they've not discovered its secrets by now, they never will. Do they really need a military base to hold some guy who does voodoo in order to try and find out how he does that voodoo? It's a bit weak as a motivation.
Yeah, it feels as if they've put him in there because they haven't had him in a while.
Yeah.
And he's literally just there to say, you've got a time scale. Try to add a bit of tension.
Yeah. He's there because, quite frankly, the next 2 episodes that come after this are, 1, probably the best of the season, and 2, he plays a pretty big part in it at some point.
Right.
So I think they probably want to just bring him in, refresh our memories that he's still there. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go on with it.
Yeah.
Let's get to the end.
Okay, so... Alright, Scully is on the phone trying to locate Private Dunham. She looks quite ill. She goes to tell Mulder something and finds Dunham in Mulder's bathtub.
Yeah.
McAlpine enters, followed by Mulder with a gun on him. So McAlpine is covered in blood and he's carrying a knife. So it appears as though he's killed Dunham. Okay.
And again, you're just like, all right,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? It's really weird. It's like a lot of stuff is happening, but I'm just not caring all that much.
Yeah.
And
Just
again, it's nothing I can put my finger on because it's not like it's badly made. It's just there's nothing that jumps out and says bad. I mean, I just don't think I'm invested in this plot.
Yeah.
And I think it's another thing is because there's so many periphery characters that have been introduced. You know, we've got Dunham, we've got Wharton, we've got Beauvais, we've got Chester, we've got McAlpine, we've got McAlpine's wife. It's all these characters, and then we got another officer, we've got another military guy coming in just a moment, and it's all just a bit. Who am I supposed to identify with?
Yeah.
Whose story is this really? Because you know, like with these single episodes, it's never really Mulder or Scully's story, unless it's a Scully-centric episode or a Mulder-centric episode.
Yeah.
Usually, the villain of the week story, it tends to be, you have a character. It becomes their story. You know, like Shannon in the last episode. Unfortunately, something nasty happened to her, and then it kind of was no longer her story. But you know what I mean? You get these characters who you can identify with, who you can say, okay, I'm interested. I want to see what happens to them. But here, I don't. None of these characters are really grabbing me in a way where I'm saying, okay, they're the clear hero, they're the clear villain, let's see how this turns out. It's just a mesh of people kind of bundled together.
So, where are we next? Are we near the end?
Man. So Mulder and Scully interrogate McAlpine, who has no memory of committing murder, but who signed a confession regardless because Wharton told him he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Is what
shrug
it
of the
is.
shoulders.
Yeah. Mulder asks Wharton to speak to Beauvais again, but Beauvais apparently committed suicide. So he tells Mulder that Beauvais has committed suicide. Scully is still looking really ill. She's looking at herself in mirrors and things, and she just looks really pasty. Mulder gets a call from Mrs. McAlpine.
Yep.
They go to see her, and she says she can't believe her husband killed Dunham, and that Dunham came to her the night before and gave her something to give to Mulder and Scully if anything should happen to him. It's a photo of Wharton and Beauvais together in Haiti.
Yeah. Doing some kind of ritual.
Yeah.
And everything just kind of clicks together. And you still don't care.
Yeah, basically. It points to the fact that these guys already have a history. Clearly, Wharton has seen things whilst he's been over there, and he's keeping this guy because he wants to know what he knows. But obviously now that Beauvais is dead, what do you do? So Mulder and Scully... Now this is ridiculous. Mulder and Scully search Wharton's office. Though how the hell they got in there onto a military base, right? This is a place where the refugees can't get out. It's a place that is guarded by military officers with weapons. These guys are armed. How the hell did they get on this base if they don't have clearance? Because they clearly don't have clearance, because a guy comes in on them. The military officer I was talking about just a few moments ago. Yeah, just ridiculous. So whilst they're in the office, they find Gutierrez's body and dog tags, as well as evidence that he and Dunham filed complaints against Wharton. The private who had beaten Beauvais earlier catches them, but they convince him that Beauvais wasn't responsible and ask where his body has been buried. Yeah.
This guy seems to abandon all protocol just a little bit too easily here by looking in a box. Fair enough. Gets us to the next scene.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So was Dunham's body in there, or was it just his dog tags? There was a skull, wasn't there, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I know there was paperwork with chicken feet on them.
Yeah, it's really muddled. It's like, so are we to assume then that actually it's Wharton who is responsible for the voodoo curses on these two guys, and that it actually wasn't Beauvais at all? Right.
And the Colonel's put the curse on Scully as well.
Yeah. Though how he did that when they were talking to him in his office, I don't know. It's so muddled, man. So muddled. It's I like my I can tell you this right now. My score's going down. I had a score for this before we start discussing it. And this is one of those episodes where when you get into it, when you start discussing it, you realise how disjointed and how
uninteresting.
How not well put together it is. Okay, so
I'm the same as you. I had a better opinion of it until we started talking about it.
Yeah. Okay, so Wharton is digging Beauvais' body up and performing some kind of ritual. I don't understand why or what he is doing. What's he doing?
I don't know. Try to make a zombie.
I don't get it. I don't get what he's trying to do.
It's never explained.
It's never explained. It's all
it's
just
mystical.
Really loose. It's just, oh man, it's like, yeah, it just dovetails, and it's like they run out of explanation. It's like they've forgotten where they're going with it. Mulder and Scully arrive. Scully waits in the car because she's feeling rough, and then Beauvais in the best scene, I think, of the episode, really creepy. Beauvais comes out of a pus-filled sore on her hand. Yeah. It's disgusting. His fingers come out of her hand. He burrows out, and it's pretty sick, pretty disgusting. While that's going on, Mulder confronts Wharton, who stabs something on the ground, causing Mulder to fall. Then Beauvais appears behind him and blows dust in his face.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have to assume it's the same. It's the powder they use in voodoo things to make people feel as if, or look as if they're dead when they're not.
Yeah. The powder that Mulder mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Which begs the question a little later on: why did Mulder allow Wharton to get buried? He clearly knew about this powder. He clearly knew that these people have been, done a number on and then raised from the dead. It's all just a little bit weird. Because, again, it's like what has raised these guys from the dead and why? You know, it's just there's no answers to any of the important questions. Why? Scully reaches for the protection that Chester sold them. So, you know, she's got Beauvais on her. She reaches for the protection, and when she grabs it, everything stops. Her vision, it's like it was a vision, and it just stops. So she gets out of the car. She runs over the hill to where Mulder was, and finds Wharton dead and Beauvais in his coffin.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's that.
Yeah. Mulder and Scully go to the base to look for Chester in the People Manifest. I don't quite know why, but they do. But Private McAlpine says he died 6 months ago in the riot. So, is he the kid who hung himself?
Yeah, I think that's what it's implying.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from it.
And then we get a little stinger.
We get a little stinger, which I'm sure no one cares about, but it's quite funny. It's a nod to Buried Alive. You know, we've already talked about the pufferfish poison, which they used in Buried Alive. So yeah, let's go out at the end of the episode with this guy waking up in his coffin and screaming to get out. There you go.
Right, who wants to wrap up, Brian?
I'll wrap up. Look, like I said, when we came to this, I actually had a pretty decent score, and you know, even at the beginning of this episode, I said this is one of, you know, it's not one of the best ones, but it's a slightly above average episode. I don't think it is a slightly above average episode.
No.
I think it's an ever slightly below average episode. It's got a lot of ideas in here that are pretty interesting, that could work, but for some reason just don't grab you, because I just feel like there's so much that they're throwing into the pot that they don't allow anything to breathe. They could lose Dunham. Dunham doesn't need to be in here. Everything that Dunham's character does, they could do with McAlpine, and in that respect, they would make McAlpine's character a lot more interesting. And yeah, like I say, Beauvais again. You know, they could make him more interesting by ditching some characters, and yeah, fleshing him out a bit more. It's all just a bit, let's throw everything into the pot and see what happens. And unfortunately, it's not a right lot, except confusion. You come out at the end of it with questions about the kind of questions you shouldn't come out with, really, about logistics and things like that, and what's actually going on here. What's Wharton doing? Why is he raising Beauvais back from the dead? And if he's raising Beauvais back from the dead, is he also the one who raised Dunham and McAlpine back from the dead? And if so, why did he do that? And why did he kill them in the first place if he was going to do that? And it's all just a bit, it's muddled. It's and we don't really get any particularly great Mulder and Scully moments that kind of pull it out of that doldrum. So look, I can watch it. There are entertaining moments in. I like the Beauvais coming through the hand thing. I like the zombie reflection in the face. I like the dog. You know, I'm going to give it a 2.5, 2.5 out of 5.
Going into talking about this, I think it was sitting about 3.5 for me.
Me too.
But it just, even talking about it, I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's not that I hated it. I didn't. It's got some great special effects, like you mentioned. It's got no characters that I'm interested in. It seems to do almost everything wrong. It tries to sidestep you, but it keeps just putting you in the back foot and antagonises you a little bit. And worst of all, it's uninteresting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even bad that you can go, oh, it's fun because it's bad, or you can poke fun at it. It's just that meh episode, and I gave it 2.5 as well. Yeah. Okay, Brian, quickly, spoiler free, because I know you've already alluded to this being a good episode. What is Colony in the X-Files mythos?
Colony is the first part of a 2-part episode, which may just hold, for me, the crown of 2-part episodes in the X-Files. I think, if Dwayne Barry Ascension had some issues, I think this one, to me, this feels like the Erlenmeyer Flask. That's the episode I can most closely relate it to, and it does pick up actually on a lot of threads that were left in the Erlenmeyer Flask. So yeah, if you can't remember much from the Erlenmeyer Flask, it might serve you well to go back and watch it again before watching this one. But for me, it's grade A 2-parter stuff, grade A mythology episode stuff, and yeah, you'll be hard pressed to find a better 2-parter throughout X-Files history.
Okay, so there we have it. Brian's put his neck on the line and promising us something special. So join us next week when we will be discussing Colony. See you next time on the X-Files Revisited.